Well, here we are with video lesson 8.4a, finding the volume of spheres, just in time for some of you who were really looking forward to knowing how to find that in class earlier. So, the volume of a sphere. When we want to find the volume of a sphere, we're going to use the formula of 4/3 pi r cubed. So our volume is equal to 4 pi r cubed. Now let's look at trying to put that to some good use. So here we have our first question. We see here that we have a sphere. A sphere would be a three-dimensional figure. It would be a ball shape, and we want to find the volume to the nearest tenth. And with our sphere that we've been given, we have been given the diameter of our sphere as being 6 centimeters. So naturally, the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to use our formula. So I'm going to make a note of step 1 being to use my formula. And then I'm going to go ahead and do step 1. So my formula is that volume is equal to 4/3 pi r cubed. Then, just like other times, I'm going to need to do some substitution. So step 2 is substitution. So I will make note of that in a different color, and then I will go ahead and do my substitution. And I'm going to have that volume is equal to 4/3, pi being 3.14, and my radius, well, wait a minute, I know the diameter. So if my diameter is equal to 6, then I know that my radius is equal to my diameter divided by 2. And 6 divided by 2 is going to give me 3. So the radius in this case is going to be 3. And now r squared means I need to do 3 times 3 times 3. So I'm going to go ahead and get that multiplied up. So pause the video and do your multiplication. So I see that my volume is equal to 113 400ths. And my last step then is going to be to go ahead and round that. So step 3 was multiply, and step 4 then is to round. So I'm going to label that in green, and I end up with 113.0, the 0 being a significant digit to show that I've rounded to the tenths, and my label being in cubic centimeters. Okay, then we can go on and we could see that we might encounter a different type of question. So as we move forward in this question, we can see that we are going to be finding the radius, given that we know the volume, so we're going to solve from another direction. So once again, we go back and we decide to use our formula. So we're going to write down that step 1 is to use the formula. Our formula being that volume is equal to pi times the radius squared, and we want 4/3. Excuse me, I'm going to rewrite that. 4/3 pi times the radius cubed. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and substitute in. So I'll make a note that step 2 is to do some substitution. My first substitution is for volume, which I know is 1450. And I will keep my 4/3. And where pi is, I will substitute 3.14. And I'm looking for my radius. So the next thing I might do after I've done substitution here is I think I might like to get rid of my fraction. Well, notice I have a 3 in the denominator here. So I can simply get rid of that by multiplying both sides of my problem by 3. So my next step is going to be sort of to do some fraction busting and multiply both sides of my equation by 3 so that I can get rid of that fraction. Alright, so now I'm ready to do that multiplication. I can easily see the 3's cancel each other here, leaving me with 4 times pi, and that gives me a value of 12.56, and then I have r cubed. And then I multiply that out on the other side, and we get 4350. Okay. Now my next step is going to be to isolate my variable. So in order to do that, I'm going to divide both sides by the coefficient. So I'm going to make a note for myself that my next step is to divide by the coefficient, and then I'll go ahead and do that. Okay. Carrying out that division leaves me with r cubed being equivalent to a very long, ugly decimal. So I'm just going to write it and carry it out 3 spaces, knowing that it continues on. And then that brings me to my next step, where I have r cubed, and I really just need to have r. So take a moment and pause the video and see if you can figure out what you would do in order to solve that problem. So we look, and not unlike when we have r squared, we take the square root. When we have r cubed, we take the cubed root of each side. And in doing that, we find out that our radius is 7. So that leaves us with our final answer. And our final answer is that we have a radius of 7 inches. So when we come to class next time, we will be prepared to solve some problems involving the volume of a sphere.